Hey, I'm doing
But
that. That's a smart. And so, when did the radio come into play? Like, how long were you doing stand up until someone decided to let you get on air as a
this is all
radio?
happening while I'm doing radio this whole time.
So how did okay? So then, how did the radio come into play in the beginning?
I graduate 2001. I come home to Birmingham. Um, Front half of 2002, Ricky Smiley leaves Birmingham to go to Dallas to start what was then a local morning show in Dallas, but will ultimately become the syndicated show that we know him to have today. Ricky leaves Birmingham. The radio station needs a new host. Again, it's lying, but you have to back it up. Um, so I get on the radio. The way I got the job at the radio station, they had auditioned a few people and didn't really like what they were getting. And so they were kind of fed up at that point. Like by the time I got to town, the radio station had decided that they weren't going to do any type of comedian on the show. And I go, yo, I am a stand up comedian. I have a degree in broadcast. Fuck with me. And I was like, So I go, how about this? D.L. Hughley is coming in town this weekend, and I know that the radio station hosts all the nigga nights at the comedy club. Like anytime a big time black comic came to town, the morning show were the ones who went on stage and yeah, are you ready for comedy?
Right.
Listen to 95 cent. I go, all
Right.
right, I know where you niggas gonna be on Friday night. I said, if I open for DL and y'all laugh, let me come up here and intern. I'll work for free. And they said that's a deal. So I called the comedy club where I'm open micing, but I haven't been passed on the big stage. At the Stardome, there's the Comedy Club Stardome in Birmingham. There's the main performance stage, and then there's a side room where the New Jacks. It's like the D League for the NBA. I'm over there in the cut in the D League. I haven't been promoted to the big stage yet. So I called the comedy club and I go, yo, I just got hired by the radio station to be the new comedian. Um, they want me to open for D.L. Hughley. It'll just be 5 minutes. Is that cool? And the comedy club was like, yeah, cool. Congratulations.
Shout out to them.
So so on the night, all I had to do was keep the club owner away from the radio DJ. And I did that. I got on stage. I did 5 minutes. It was just one of them nights, man, where just everything worked, every syllable, every mannerism. I just fucking had them. I fucking had them. And I walk off stage, and Buck Wild, who was the host of the show at the time, he just walked up and shook my hand. He said, "See you Monday morning. Bring Chick-fil-A."
Hey, shout out to that man.
Yeah, but
Um,
so long story short, while I'm doing mornings, if the gig was within 4 hours of Birmingham, I drove home so that I could be on the radio the next day. And if it was more than 4 hours, I stayed in whatever city I was performing in, get a day job during the day. But I would do all of my production work before I left town, and that's how the prank calls started coming into play because I had to do pranks to honor what Ricky had set up in the
I was
city.
gonna ask you what made you start, cause see, that's when I first heard you. That's when LimeWire was popular. When you
Oh
downloaded
shit,
music,
Bear Share.
yeah,
You
Bear
took
Share
it
and
back.
all that. Is that? And somebody sent me one of your prank phone calls. Is when you was pretending to be an African, and you was like, you was cussing out somebody in an African voice. Man, I thought that was the funniest fucking prank phone call I had ever heard in my life. So
Man,
so talk about the whole prank phone calls and how you got that kicked off and doing the I think you did like CDs and things like that.
yeah, I did 3 CDs of that stuff. I mean, knowing what I know now, just about cultural appropriation and just shit like that, like it was funny then. And black people have a different comedy code. Like it was like, all right, that was funny for its time. There's no way I could even do that now. Like I couldn't even like try to like pretend to be somebody else just to get somebody to cuss me out. But in 2001, that's
Different
what the
time.
fuck people like. That's what people laughed at. And so that was I was replacing Ricky Smiley, who was known for doing pranks. You're not going to get on the radio without doing prank phone calls. In radio, it's called a benchmark. It's like a go-to segment. It's like Charlemagne's Donkey of the Day. Like you every day, people are counting on this segment to happen.
Gotcha.
And the prank calls, I'll be honest, I have a love-hate relationship with them, in the long run in terms of legacy of my career. It's the first thing that put me on. It's the first real thing I ever had go viral. And this is pre-YouTube. This is when going viral was over email. When you would get an email and it would be like 90 forwards underneath it. And you see all the people who got the email before you. The pranks, what the prank calls did was open me up to other markets too, because in those days, you knew what the radio. How can I put it? There's a radio service website that shows you the ratings of pretty much every station, every market, every shift. So I could identify the cities where there were non-syndicated Black radio shifts happening, and they had low ratings. And what I did was I targeted radio stations in markets where I wasn't performing. The clubs who didn't respond to the VHS tapes, the clubs who never returned the email. Back in those days, it was faxes. You could fax your avails to clubs. So I identified which radio stations in those markets where I wasn't performing. Oh, this station isn't doing well. They probably need some fun content. So I would mail them a fucking stack of burnt prank call CDs.
Oh.
I send these motherfuckers 80 tracks. We ain't doing shit with them. YouTube ain't a thing. So, hey, my nigga, do me a favor. Play these pranks on your morning show and just say my name. And it's free to you. I'm not asking for anything in return. And it's free content. And they fucking did it. God bless them all. I was on in like 40 markets, bro. And so I let the pranks cook for 3 months. Then I would turn around and call the comedy club that wouldn't fuck with me before.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, yo, I'm on in this market. So now you're a club owner. That's business. Even if you don't think I'm funny, I can walk into a radio station that you don't advertise with and bring people to the show. So that was enough to get me booked in a lot of markets where I know I wouldn't have gotten a chance. I know I wouldn't have gotten a look. And people came out because of the prank calls. It was just, I think for me, as you grow comedically, you want to do different shit. And so I think that's what kind of the thing is. It's like, I know deep down I should probably do one more prank phone call album, but that's also 20 years ago. I'm 41, man. I can't be yelling at people like I would. Like, to make a prank call good, it takes a level of recklessness.
Right, right.
Like the stuff you're saying, the fact that I was never shot, physically assaulted,
I was gonna ask you
or
that.
sued by anybody and we're talking well over 700 prank phone calls total over my career. I think you got to know when it's time to leave the casino.
Hey, but it's like that Jay-Z line. It's like that Jay-Z line. People want my old shit, buy my old albums. You see what I'm saying? so it's like, if people still want your pranks, like, hey, go and check them out. You know what I'm saying? Because you about moving forward.
And it's dope because there's always people discovering them. What's funny is the people who still discover my pranks and think I just did them shits. I'm like, man, that prank was from 2004. That nigga dead. The person
right.
Like, for real, people that I've prank called have died.
Oh, dead. Oh, okay. All right. That's not
have literally funny. Have died, and I get emails from their families. And the one thing that is dope, though, is that it's it makes me sad, but it is touching when the families of people that I've pranked reach out to me after all these years, and they say, that's the first thing we played at the repass.
Wow.
Because we wanted to remember something fun about it. Like, that part of it, that still touches me and makes me feel good. But yeah, I don't know if I could ever do prank phone calls again, because so much of that is just bent upon political incorrectness.